This video is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, the best online retailer for Magic the Gathering singles and sealed product, and GatheringMagic.com, the #1 source for Magic the Gathering news and content.
Hey everyone, this is Ricardo here with Gathering Magic, and I am here to open the blue Commander deck for 2014. We have Teferi, the Temporal Archmage. He's actually pretty sweet. Let's go ahead and get this open and figure this all out. As you all might have known from my black video that I did, I wasn't too gentle with the box. This one I am actually a little more wiser on, open from the bottom as I said before. Throw that off to the side. We have Senor Teferi. Here we go. Alright, let's take a look here. So we have Teferi, Temporal Archmage. He costs 4 double blue, and he can be used as your commander. He has 5 loyalty counters when he enters the battlefield. His first and second ability are +1 and -1 respectively, while his last ability costs 10. First ability is you look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put one into your hand and the other on the bottom of your library. So it's sleight of hand. His second ability is untap up to 4 target permanents. Permanents can be lands, creatures, lands, enchantments, creatures, planeswalkers if you have a Sarkhan, all that other fun stuff. His third ability is you get an emblem with, you may activate loyalty abilities of planeswalkers you control on any player's turn anytime you can cast an instant. Now, this is pretty bonkers because let's say you're able to just untap your permanents on the next player's turn. You can use them as resources and you can also back them up. Also, you still accumulate loyalty counters, so it's very, very, very good. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the deck. We do have that oversized Teferi, and we also did get Sweet Emblem, and we also got some sweet tokens in here. We also get the sweet box, this nifty little box here. Is very convenient because even if your deck is sleeved, it can hold the whole thing. Alright, so go ahead and move that off to the side. We have the Teferi emblem. We have fish, whale, kraken, fish, whale, kraken, ape, ape, ape. We have zombie, 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 zombie. Then we have a whole bunch of islands. We have a very, very good copy of Teferi, and the reason why I say this is good by comparison is we have a general that if somebody were to Chaos Warp, we can shuffle into our library and not have to worry about, like somebody, maybe trying to pull a fast one. I mean, that's pretty obvious, right? So that's good that we always have that size one. We have Stitcher Geralf. He is a known thing from the Innistrad block. His story wasn't very well talked about. He is a 3/4 human wizard that is a legendary creature. He costs 3 and double blue. His activated ability costs 2 a blue, and you have to tap him to activate it. Each player puts the top 3 cards from his or her library into his or her graveyard. Exile up to 2 creature cards put into the graveyards this way. Put an XX blue zombie creature token onto the battlefield, where X is the total power of cards exiled this way. So he could be very, very, very potent by just throwing out a guy into the way. The creature can be incredibly strong. He can also be pretty weak. It just really depends on exactly how you go about it. It depends on your deck a lot, but he is very easy to build around. Next we have Lorthos the Tidemaker. He is from Zendikar. This is a reprint. He costs 5 triple blue. He's an 8/8 that whenever he attacks, he can pay 8, and then he'll use all 8 of his tentacles to tap up to 8 permanents. They don't untap during their controller's next untap step, so it definitely gives you room for advantage, because Lorthos will untap. We have the Dulcet Sirens. It is a 1/3 for 2 and a blue. Its activated ability costs a blue, and you have to tap it. Target creature attacks target opponent this turn if able. You can morph him and flip him up for 1 blue. Well, her rather, Sirens. Reefworm. When I first saw this card spoiled, I laughed a little bit. It is a 0/1 for 3 and a blue, which is obviously pretty weak. However, when he dies, you put a 3/3 blue fish creature token onto the battlefield with, whenever that creature dies, you put a 6/6 blue wheel creature token onto the battlefield with, when this creature dies, put a 9/9 blue kraken creature token onto the battlefield. It's effectively just the food chain. You get small fish. You start out with the small fish, and you get to the big fish. So, pretty cool. Ixidron reprint, 3 and double blue. He enters the battlefield, and he turns all of their non-token creatures face down. They become 2/2 creatures, and his power and toughness are each equal to the number of face-down creatures on the battlefield. It's a sweet story behind this guy. If you guys don't know, just go ahead and look it up. It's definitely interesting. Stormsurge Kraken. It costs 3 in double blue and is a 5/5 with hexproof. He has the new ability called Lieutenant, meaning as long as you control the commander and he is in play, Stormsurge Kraken gets +2/+2 and has, whenever he becomes blocked, draw 2 cards. Well, it says you may, but I mean, why wouldn't you want to draw 2 cards ever? So it becomes a 7/7 that your opponent's probably going to block. He's going to have a hard time dealing with it because it has hexproof. Frost Titan, super awesome guy, 6/6 for 4 in double blue. He's a reprint from the core sets. Whenever he becomes a target of spell or ability an opponent controls, counter it unless they pay 2, so he's pretty hard to remove. And when he enters the battlefield or attacks, tap target permanent. It doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Sphinx of Roil, another sweet finisher from the Zendikar block. Flying 5/5 Shroud, you may look at the top card of your library. He costs 4 in double blue. Sphinx of Magosi, not my favorite Sphinx, but it costs 3 triple blue. Is a 6/6 flyer with the activated ability cost of 2 in a blue, draw a card, then put a 1/1 counter on Sphinx of Magosi. It's a very cool card. Phyrexian Ingester. This guy can very, very easily turn the game around. He costs 6 in a blue. He's a 3/3 with Imprint. Imprint's a mechanic that triggers whenever the creature enters the battlefield, and it has a cost. So when he enters the battlefield, you may exile target non-token creature. He gets +X/+Y, where X is the exiled creature's power and Y is its toughness. So you got a big creature, it doesn't matter. He eats him up. This Sphinx, I'm not going to dare say its third word. I think it's Uthuun. Anyway, he costs 7. He's a 5/6 flyer that has Factor Fiction on him. Factor Fiction, I think, is in this deck. I'm not too sure. I didn't bother to take a look at the deck lists. I like to keep these kinds of things a surprise because Commander is very dear to me, and I wouldn't want to ruin it by like metagaming or anything like that. So Factor Fiction states, reveal the top 5 cards of your library. An opponent separates those cards into 2 piles. Take 1 into your hand, put the other into the graveyard. Hoverguard Sweepers, 6 double blue, 5/6 flyer. Whenever he enters the battlefield, you may return up to 2 target creatures to their owner's hands. Pretty self-explanatory, supposed to get you ahead with the tempo play. Breaching Leviathan, costs 7 double blue and is a 9/9. Whenever he enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, tap all non-blue creatures. Those creatures do not untap during their controller's untap step. Now, this guy can be pretty brutal for a lot of reasons. He's a 9/9. He's going to be able to swing at your opponent. If your opponent did not play a blocker, they're taking 9. He's very, very good, very costly. You have to be aware of that. Deep-Sea Kraken. Very costly, however, has Suspend on it. He cannot be blocked. He is a 6/6 for 7 and triple blue. You can suspend it for 9 turns for the cost of 2 and a blue. What that means is you exile it from your hand instead of casting it right away for the cost of 2 and blue. You put 9 counters on it. Every upkeep, you take off a counter. Once he has no more counters on it, then you cast it, and it gains haste if it's a creature. This is a creature, so it gains haste. It also has a triggered ability. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, if Deep-Sea Kraken is suspended, remove a time counter from it. Very, very powerful card. Infinite Reflections, also a really sweet card. I actually play this in my Ninja deck. I talked about a little, the black deck that I was going over. This costs 5 and a blue, enchant creature, enters the battlefield attached to a creature. Each other non-token creature you control becomes a copy of that creature, and non-token creatures you control enter the battlefield as a copy of the enchanted creature. So, all my creatures can be Deep-Sea Krakens. All my creatures can be Breaching Leviathans. All my creatures can be Hoverguard Sweepers. It just gives you so many different tempo plays. You just have to make sure that, because it is very costly, you have to have the mana for it. Well of Ideas, costs 5 and a blue, enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards. At the beginning of each other player's draw step, that player draws an additional card. At the beginning of your draw step, you draw an additional 2 cards. Cyclonic Rift, reprint from Return to Ravnica. Self-explanatory. It's a boomerang for things you don't control. You can overload it to bounce everything an opponent controls. Or actually all opponents. So in Commander, it's all of your opponent's things. Cackling Counterpart. I also play this in my Ninja deck because it puts a copy of a thing into play. The Ninja deck is based around just playing a whole bunch of clones, bringing them back into your hand with ninjas, and putting them on bigger things. Very fun. So this just puts a copy into play of a creature that you control, and you can flash it back for 5 and double blue, costs 1 and double blue normally. Domineering Will. 3 and a blue, instant, gain control of up to 3 target non-attacking creatures until the end of turn. Untap those creatures, they block this turn if able. Sweet combat trick for blue. Intellectual Offering. 4 and a blue, instant, choose an opponent. You and that player each draw 3 cards. Choose an opponent, untap all non-land permanents you control, and all non-land permanents that player controls. Stroke of Genius has Urza on it itself. Can't be a bad card, right? Target player draws X cards. Costs X, 2, and a blue. Rite of Replication. This is probably one of the sweetest blue spells in Commander. Costs 2 and double blue. Put a token into play that's copy of target creature. You can kick it for 5 colorless mana, and instead of putting 1 dude in play, you put 5 copies of the dude instead. Aethergale. Costs 3 double blue. Sorcery. Return 6 target non-land permanents to their owner's hand. Sweet tempo play for 5. Distorting Wake. X triple blue. Sorcery. Return X target non-land permanents to their owner's hand. You all can kind of see where this is going. That's pretty much what the deck is designed to do. It's just to out-tempo your opponent. We have Steel Hellkite, another reprint from Scars of Mirrodin. Costs 6. Colorless mana is a 5/5 with flying. It has 2 activated abilities. The first one costs 2, and you can give it 1/0 until the end of the turn. Second ability costs X mana. Destroy each non-land permanent with a converted mana cost of X, whose controller was dealt combat damage by Steel Hellkite this turn. Activate this ability only once each turn. So the best way that I have found to do this is you can do it during combat. And the reason you want to do it during combat is because if your opponent's going to do any tricks or anything like that, you just go, all right, all your stuff's dead. But you can only do it after they've been dealt damage. So you kind of have to wait until the end of combat, but you don't want to go to your second main phase because doing it at the end of combat means there's a lot more limitations on that. Sapphire Medallion. Blue spells cost 1 less to cast, cost 2 mana. Crown of Doom. 3 colorless mana. Whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, it gets +2/+0 until the end of turn. You can pay 2. Target player other than Crown of Doom's owner gains control of it. Activate this ability only during your turn. So if you have this in your hand, it's probably wise to have 5 mana when you cast it, so that way you could pay the 3 and then pay the 2 to give it to somebody, because you never want to hold on to this for when you have 3 other opponents. Nervenhall's Disc costs 4 colorless mana. I hope I pronounced that right. Nervenhall's Disc enters the battlefield tapped. You can pay 1, tap it, and destroy all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments, including this one. So it's a very, very, very risky move if you have a lot of things in the battlefield, but if your back's against the wall, this is a perfect answer. Coral Atoll enters the battlefield tapped. Every other deck has a land similar to all the other ones I'm about to go through. Whenever this one enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless you return an untapped island you control to its owner's hand. You may tap it to add 1 and a blue to your mana pool. It gives you a little bit of ramp. These are called Karoo lands. They were printed, I believe, in the dark or somewhere around that time. And each color has one, so they're pretty good. Ghost Quarter, very good for dealing with problematic lands your opponents might have. Gaia's Cradle's a very good example. Also on top of that, it produces you mana, or it can help your mana fixing if you're desperate. Lonely Sandbar, most of the time you're just going to cycle this away for the 1 blue. Otherwise, it's an island that comes into play tapped. Myriad Landscape, these are in all the commander decks. It's a very good card because it can help you fix your mana base, on top of the fact that it just adds 1 colorless to your mana pool. Maybe you don't need that extra lands for some reason. Maybe you have to play it, on turn 1 and on turn 2 you have a drop that you want to play. Whatever the case may be, if you don't have to, you can always just thin out your deck by grabbing basic lands that share a land type, and then you put them onto the battlefield tapped. So this can help you get ahead because it's 1 land grabbing you 2 lands. Remote Isle, another cycle land. Most of the time you're just going to want to cycle it away. Otherwise, it's an island that enters the battlefield tapped. Tectonic Edge, sweet card, seeing a lot of play right now in Modern. I believe it's anywhere between $4 to $6. Taps for 1 mana, and you can pay 1, tap it, and sacrifice it to destroy target non-basic lands. You can only activate this if your opponent controls 4 or more lands. Reason why this card's so amazing is it deals with all those problematic lands. Your opponent has a fetch land, not a fetch land, a man land like Celestial Colonnade, Creeping Tar Pits, Raging Ravine. It's just getting out of hand. Treetop Village, another great example. Deal with it right away. Zoetic Cavern. Morph face up for 2. It's a very good combat trick. You can swing at your opponent, they can go Lightning Bolt, and you just flip it over and you can't Lightning Bolt to land. Azure Mage costs 1 and a blue. It's a 2/1 that you can pay 3 and a blue to activate its ability to draw a card. Fathom Seer. Its morph cost is returning 2 islands you control to their owner's hands. That's how you flip it up. And when he's turned face up, draw 2 cards. He's a 1/3 for 1 and a blue otherwise. Fogbank, one of the best blockers because he never takes damage. He never deals damage either, which is kind of a drawback. But to have a guy that can just be like, all right, you're swinging at me with a million red thing, sure, I'll block it. It has first strike, sweet. It's death touch, sweet, I don't care. My 0/2 is going to take care of it. He's flying defender, he costs 1 and a blue. Willbender, costs 1 and a blue. You can morph it face down and flip it up for 1 and a blue. Whenever he's turned face up, you can change the target of target spell or ability with a single target. Like I said with the lightning bolt scenario before, they try to lightning bolt Willbender when he's face down, flip him up, throw the lightning bolt back at him. Riptide Survivor, he costs 2 and a blue. He's a 2/1 with morph again. You can flip him up for 1 and double blue. When he's turned face up, discard 2 cards, then draw 3 cards. Very good if you're running into a lot of lands or you're not running into enough lands. You can kind of pitch cards that you don't see yourself casting soon, or lands that you just have too many of and hopes to gain gas. Seagate Oracle, 2 and a blue, 1/3 whenever he enters the battlefield. Look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the other on the bottom of your library. Very good card for making sure that your next couple draws are going to be, very good. Shaper Parasite, 1 and double blue, 2/3, with morph again. You can flip it up for 2 and a blue. Whenever he's turned face up, target creature gets +2/-2 or -2/+2 until the end of turn. It could be used as a removal, it could be used for the last couple points of damage. It's a very good spell. Mulldrifter. Everyone loves some Mulldrifter. 4 and a blue, 2/2, flyer. He enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards. You can evoke Mulldrifter, which means you can cast a spell for its evoke cost. If you do, it's sacrificed when it enters the battlefield. So you still cast it normally, normally-ish. You cast it like you would normally cast a creature, so it would use a stack and everything similarly. This is an alternate way of casting the spell, and the downside is, it dies when it enters the battlefield immediately, but you still get the trigger of drawing 2 cards. So 3 mana, draw 2 cards is sweet. 5 mana, flying, draws you 2 cards, 2/2. Absolutely worth it. Brine Elemental. This guy's insane. He costs 4 double blue, 5/4. You can put him on the battlefield face down. He has morph. You can flip him up for 5 double blue. When he's turned face up, each opponent skips his or her next untap step. Very obnoxious to have to play against. Very, very awesome to play with. So if you have this guy in your deck, it's an awesome combat trick. Your opponent goes ahead and they swing with all their guys. If you have some tempo play, or this guy's going to be enough to prevent the lethal amount of damage, you just flip him face up, block. You don't have to worry about those creatures on their following turn. It buys you a whole other turn. On top of that, it destroys, it gets you so far ahead because you also don't have to worry about their lands. They might have put everything they had into that attack, and they needed it to be exacties. Brine Elemental, right in the face. Fool's Demise. 4 and a blue, enchant creature. If that creature dies, return that card to the battlefield under your control. Whenever Fool's Demise is put in the graveyard from the battlefield, return it to your hand. Return Fool's Demise to its owner's hand. So you can go ahead and place this on your opponent's creature. It'll enter the battlefield again under your control instead of their control. And whenever Fool's Demise is put in the graveyard from the battlefield, you can return it to your hand. So this can very slowly over the course of time just gain you control of all of your opponent's things, assuming they don't answer Fool's Demise. Pongify, 1 blue. That's how we got those green apes that you all saw earlier. You're probably like, what the heck? Why are there green tokens in here? Pongify, most people would identify this with rapid hybridization. 1 blue, destroy target creature, can't be regenerated. Its controller puts a 3/3 green ape creature token onto the battlefield. Rapid hybridization puts a lizard, not a big deal. Into the Roil, reprint from Zendikar. Costs 1 and a blue, is an instant with kicker 1 and a blue. So you can pay the 1 and a blue in addition to the 1 and a blue for casting the spell. So 2 and double blue in total if you do pay the kicker. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If this card was kicked, draw a card. Very, very good card. Turn to Frog, sweet combat trick. Reprint from Forever. So very good card. Exclude counter target creature spell, draw a card for 2 and a blue. Dismiss, 2 and double blue, counter target spell, draw a card. Call to Mind. Very sweet card. Wish I could play more of it. It's a very, very good combo piece for some decks. 2 and a blue, sorcery, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Compulsive Research. 2 and a blue, sorcery, target player draws 3 cards. Then that player discards 2 cards unless he or she discards a land card. If you have too many lands, it's a no-brainer. You discard the land, you gain an advantage. Concentrate, 2 in double blue, draw 3 cards. It's a sorcery. Very good card for drawing, for drawing. It's very cost effective. I know in Standard right now there's one that costs 3 and 1 blue and only draws you 2 cards. Granted, it's an instant, so there's a versatility there, but Concentrate's insane. Love that card. Rush of Knowledge, 4 and a blue, draw cards equal to the highest converted mana cost among permanents you control. Now, we're playing with Krakens and other things of that sort. This is a permanent, for instance, and it costs 6. So you draw 6 cards on top of it being a draw card for your deck. Can't complain about that card ever. Let's see. Artisan of Kozilek. So another sweet card with Rush of Knowledge. Costs 9 colorless mana, is a 10/9. Whenever you cast Artisan of Kozilek, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it's an insane tempo play on top of the fact that you have a big dude. He has a sweet triggered ability that says, whenever this creature attacks, defending player sacrifices 2 permanents. That's exactly what Annihilator does. It's exactly what it should do, because that's what it sounds like it should do. Everflowing Chalice, sweet card from World Wake, if I remember correctly. It costs 0, and you can kick it any number of times for 2 mana, meaning you can pay 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, any multiple of 2, and it enters the battlefield with the charge counter on it for each time it was kicked. You can tap it to add 1 mana to your mana pool for each charge counter on Everflowing Chalice. If you're hitting late game and for some reason you need 10 or 11 mana, whatever, you can go ahead and just kick it a billion times, gain all that mana. The only drawback is if you put all of your mana into it in one turn, your opponent just goes naturalized because, the green deck has tons of naturalizes. You kind of lose out a lot on it. So it's a very, not a risky card to play, but it's definitely one of those cards that you kind of have to be aware of how much mana you're spending. Tormod's Crypt deals with graveyards. Tap, sacrifice to exile all cards from target player's graveyard, costs 0. Sol Ring adds 2 mana to your mana pool, costs 1, great turn 1 play. Mind Stone costs 2, adds 1 to your mana pool, and if you want to cycle it, you can. Sky Diamond costs 2, enters the battlefield tapped, adds blue to your mana pool. Swiftfoot Boots protects your commander. Equipped creature has hexproof and haste. Equip cost of 1, costs 2 mana on its own. Commander Sphere. This card's really awesome. Every time this has been brought to my attention, this card, I laughed a little bit and I learned a little bit more about it. At first I was just like, oh, 3 mana if you want to sacrifice a draw card, whatever, and it's otherwise a command tower. Cool. But, you can kind of think of it as you pay 3 mana, you have something that produces mana for you, and after you've produced mana with it, you can draw a card. Very, very good card. In my opinion, I love it. Can't wait to play with it. Unstable Obelisk. It's just a thing you can kind of knock over onto a permanent for 7 mana and you destroy it. Effectively, this thing's really heavy and it destroys things when it falls over. So otherwise, it just taps and adds 1 mana to your mana pool. Worn Powerstone, classic, costs 3 mana, adds 2 to your mana pool, enters the battlefield tapped. Salt Suit. This card's really cool because it costs 4. The equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has haste. Can't attack you or a planeswalker you control and cannot be sacrificed. Now, that first part doesn't make any sense unless you read the second part, which states, at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you may have that player gain control of the equipped creature until the end of turn. If you do, untap it. So let's go ahead and say I put this on, well, probably not Fogbank. Let's say I place this on this guy here. He becomes a 4/3 haster that can't attack me. I can go ahead and give this guy to an opponent. Assault Suit's still my card, so they can't attack me with the Azure Mage. They can, however, attack every one of my opponents. But let's go ahead and just say that, they just go ahead and throw this on another guy that's slightly scarier and bigger. Well, I still don't have to worry about it. All my other guys do. Oh, all my other opponents, rather. They ain't my guys. I didn't hire them. Equip cost is 3. It's a very sweet card. You should definitely take a look at it. Thran Dynamo. This card's insane. Costs 4 and adds 3 to your mana pool. Urgolem's Eye, 4 mana. Artifact adds 2 to your mana pool. Dreamstone Hedron costs 6, adds 3 to your mana pool. You can pay 3, tap it, sacrifice it, and draw 3 cards. Now, the reason why they've added all of these sweet little mana-producing artifacts is you have a lot of really expensive spells in this deck, and these are very, very good at excelling you ahead of the game. Now, some people would argue, maybe I don't want to play this because it doesn't actually do anything outside of mana. What if I have enough mana? Well, there are activated abilities you can do. You can switch around cards that you have equipped. You can even take them out of your deck if you don't like them. It's a preference-based thing. If you feel like there's something better you can play, by all means. But otherwise, they're in there because you have very expensive Leviathans. All right, guys, so that's pretty much all that we have here. Oh, sorry, guys and gals. Girls do play this game too. We did get this sweet little booklet here. We have a rules reference card, and we also happen to have this sweet sheet that says our entire deck list. Go ahead and take a look at that there. We also have the playing the deck, which is kind of just an idea of like, oh, what should I do with this deck when I'm playing it? And then we have Teferi's story on the other side. We have the setup for Commander, and also a tip for building Commander down here. And then we also have this over here, kind of just explains exactly why Commander came to be. And it also gives you a little bit of background story with the Stitcher Geralf. Not a lot of people know anything about him. That's why he's here if you want. There's more information, I'm sure, on the internet about that guy. All right, well, I've had a lot of fun opening this with you guys. This is Ricardo with Gathering Magic. Thank you so much for joining me today and hanging out with me. I know I might have been talking fast for some of you. I do apologize. I'm getting over a cough, so speaking fast helps me not cough. Oddly enough, not enough oxygen, right? All right, well, thank you guys so much. I hope you all have a great day, and if you guys want, you can always go ahead and check out the rest of our unboxings at the end of the video by clicking on any of the appropriate annotations. Thank you so much again, and I'm going to go ahead and place everything in this neat box that I got. That is blue, the favorite and best color in Magic in my opinion. Thank you so much.